Developers Conference. For reaction to that and the other key announcements made today, let's bring back in star Wedbush analyst Dan Ives. Thanks for being back with us. You said going in that this was one of the most important moments in the history of this company, perhaps one of the top 3 moments. Did it live up to the hype?
I think it was a home run. I mean, ultimately, they delivered on every item that they needed to in terms of OpenAI, in terms of the privacy. And really, essentially what they're doing is they're laying out the stack for developers. The only way that they're going to tap into that data is going through Apple. So to me, this is the start of what's going to be an AI-driven, I think, super cycle from 16 to 17. And most importantly, Scott, it's services. I think this is going to be really a game changer from a services perspective.
You call it that it changed. By the way, here's the note. I mean, you published literally a new note before you sat down
5 minutes
with us. So maybe a lot of it was locked and loaded and ready to go. You call it a game changer. You say that the company is not getting any credit for its AI monetization. Isn't that rightfully so? Isn't this a bit of a show-me story at this point?
Oh, no. And look, but Apple's been there before from a show-me perspective. But if you look, you have 270 million. I think this is the most important thing. 270 million of 1.5 billion iPhones have not upgraded in 4+ years. Pent-up demand's there. And now they're laying the yellow brick road to monetization for AI. Now, look, we could talk about Godfather of AI, Jensen, NVIDIA, Nadella, and Microsoft, and everything that we see in this 1995 AI moment. But from a consumer perspective, 25% of the world, in our opinion, when they access AI, it's going to be through an Apple device.
Let me ask you this. Why has the upgrade cycle been so slow? You highlight what you call pent-up demand. We could have said perhaps a year ago there's pent-up demand. The new phone did not lead to a tremendous super cycle, as you suggested. Why?
The products are too good. I mean, the battery technology has just gotten better. If you look at, especially in China, you really haven't seen many upgrades there for the last 2-3 years. And from a hardware perspective, the innovations really haven't been there. That's been that catalyst. But now the catalysts are really going to be on the software. It's going to be on the chip. It's going to be on the LLM. And essentially what Cook here did is say, this is our castle. This is the Apple castle. The data's not leaving. If you're a developer, you want access to it, you got to come to Cupertino and Apple Park. If not, you're not going to be there. And that's why, and there's 2.2 billion reasons, iOS devices, why I believe this is so important.
Why do you think the stock is doing what it's doing today? And is it as simple as saying, well, it ran up into the announcement? But I want to hear it in your own words as to why you think whatever the stock performance reflects, if anything, in one moment doesn't make a full story for sure. But there's not a flying off the chart move today in the stock to suggest perhaps the optimism that you articulate in your seat.
Because I think the knee-jerk, there was no wow in itself in terms of an actual use case that they talked about that I think the average investor looked at.
I mean, you just painted a whole wow thing but now you say there was no wow.
I'm saying wow individually. I think when you look overall to presentation, I actually thought it was ahead of expectations relative to what they laid out. And I think a lot of times with Apple events, look, I remember, Scott, iPhone 6. I mean, I could go through many events. You came out here being like, wow, investors are not, they're disappointed. And then all of a sudden, you had a $500 billion go to a $3 trillion. So I do think in the Apple story, investors are glass half empty. But I believe we sit here 6 to 12 months from now. This will be a historical moment for Apple.
Well, when do we start to get the first indications of what this really is going to mean? Do we have to wait until deep into the fall, the early winter, right? A lot of this is not even going to be available for upgrade until the fall.
Yeah, I think it starts with Asia checks, that us and others do. Do you start to see tick-ups coming from the Asia supply chain, 3-5% type growth for iPhone 16? Then you start to layer on an upgrade cycle. That's really important because that's ultimately what Apple sees from a demand perspective. But I think it all comes down to China. I mean, China, we believe June's last negative growth quarter. This will be a catalyst. And the biggest issue with AI is about privacy. And this is really a flex the muscles for Cook. And I think lay it out perfectly. I also think OpenAI, it's a get out popcorn moment. There's going to be a lot more with Altman being here that we're going to surround OpenAI and Apple.
All right, guys, this is the part of the video where I'm going to break down the stocks that were mentioned in the CNBC clip. Today is all about Apple, so we're going to be breaking down Apple in depth. The blue line is the 45-day moving average, and the green line is the 200-day moving average. You can see we had a sell-off day of almost 2%. We're up at this high rejection area where we've got rejected several times. The first time we got to this area, we got rejected almost 16%. The second time we got to this area, we got rejected over 16%. And now we're up here again, guys. So I wouldn't be surprised to get a pullback into the moving average, or at the very least consolidate sideways for right now. Let's take a look at a bigger chart. If we make every single bar 1 week, you can see this massive double bottom a lot more clear, which is a very bullish pattern. You can see it rejected going lower. It even had a slightly lower low, which is very bullish, and now it's back up at the high. So that's the one thing going for it that says that we could hold this as a consolidation and then break out of the high. If we do that, we'll be looking way past 200, guys, and that's starting to look just as bullish. You can see we're even above the 45-week moving average. The 200-week moving average is catching up, kind of along this trend line that we've been respecting since 2019. If we make every single bar a month, you can see it even more clear. A very defined double bottom, and we should break out of the highs and keep going higher, guys. They announced a lot of AI hype, a lot of iPhone changes. There is a lot of things that are changing for the iPhone, a lot of reasons to buy new iPhones. That's going to make Apple a lot of money. Another reason to be bullish. Dan Ives is talking about this is the start of a super cycle. We know that they have over 2 billion people using Apple products, so once we find a new way to monetize it, their stock is going to be going to the moon again, in my opinion. We had a couple years of cooling off period where they lost the hype of being the best stock in the stock market, but now that we've got all of this coming for it, and it should keep getting better and better, this AI is going to help Apple get back on top, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and the breakdown. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.